Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 24. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Mike Shelah. Mike is a speaker, a sales leader, a mentor, and a professional developer. He founded the Mike Shelah consultation company to work directly with companies and sales professionals nationwide to help them find more customers and find them fast. He uses his experience to teach others how to harness the power of LinkedIn. Mike is a dedicated husband, a father, and a community advocate. When he's not busy presenting networking, he likes to spend time with his family. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Patience. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Thank you for coming. I know the clan is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your online business? Take us right up to the last job or business before you are online.
Sure. My story really begins in 1999 when I became a technology salesman. And like many people in sales, I had success by getting a list of names and phone numbers to call. And I would make 100 calls a day. I'd do that 2 or 3 times a week. I could set enough appointments that I could get enough opportunities, that I could sell enough business, that I could make enough commissions, that I was a successful salesperson. And I did that for many years. And I would say probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I began to notice that it was becoming increasingly difficult to get meetings with the right people, that making phone calls, if I wasn't already a known commodity, really didn't do me any good. I could make 100 phone calls in a day and not talk to a single person. So many of the decision makers that I wanted to talk to now had caller ID, and if they didn't recognize the number, they didn't answer it. And if you left the voicemail, as soon as they heard they didn't know you, they deleted it. And I figured out that there's got to be a better way. And a friend of mine had introduced me to LinkedIn. And like many people, I had created a profile but hadn't really done a whole heck of a lot with it. And I started using LinkedIn as a research tool. And I found a lot of common ground with people that I wanted to do business with. Maybe we had a mutual interest in sports or music or books. Maybe we both went to the same college. Maybe we were both in the same fraternity, or maybe we were from the same hometown. And I started leveraging that information to get people to listen. And then once you have people listening, it's a lot easier to get them to buy. And with that, I noticed more and more of my colleagues were not using LinkedIn, certainly not in that way, or they were doing things that were really counterproductive to them having success with LinkedIn. And I would have many people say to me, oh, well, I've tried LinkedIn before and it doesn't work. And the more I talked to those people, the more I found that they weren't putting in the right efforts. They weren't putting in the right networking, the right connecting, and that's why it wasn't successful. And I founded Mike Shelah Consulting to not only share my sales expertise, but to really help people fully understand the value of LinkedIn and how it can be a true catalyst for change, not just in sales, but for any business professional.
Wow. That's a really nice background, Mike. So help us connect with you. Tell us one thing, a business, a personal, that we want to know about you.
Something about me. I am a big kid. I still read comic books. I still watch cartoons. I still buy action figures. I'm a big kid at heart, and I love that component of things. You know, Marvel and DC have become very popular in the last few years with the Batman movies and the Avengers movies. And as an adult, I'm like, finally, the world has caught up to what I've been saying all along. That this is fun entertainment, and it's a great way to interact with your children as well.
And how is your wife taking this?
She's been great about it since day one. She's known that I'm what they call a fanboy or a geek since the day that we met, and she's been okay with it. And more often than not, she feeds my passion by buying me Superman T-shirts or new action figures or new comic books for Christmas and my birthday.
Wow, she's a really champ. Okay. Do you have a successful story using LinkedIn for yourself?
Yeah, I have many of them. One of my favorite ones, this is a little short one, but just illustrates how powerful LinkedIn can be. I was working for a technology company about 5 years ago, and they had joined the local chamber of commerce, and the owner says to me, all right, go through the chamber directory and start calling all the other members. And I thought, well, I don't know how productive that's going to be, but it was his rule, and I abided by it. The change that I made was before I called anyone, I looked them up on LinkedIn to see what common ground I had with them. And there was this one gentleman by the name of Pat, who when I looked him up, we had several mutual connections, but most importantly, he was connected to one of my fraternity brothers that I had graduated from college with, and he was also connected to a former boss that I had a very good relationship with. And when I called him, like so often, got voicemail. He didn't answer. And the message that I left for him was, hi, Pat. My name's Mike. I'm a fellow member of the Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce. Wanted to reach out and introduce myself today. I took a look at your LinkedIn profile, and I noticed that you are connected to George and Brad. Tell me how you know George and Brad. Gave him my phone number, and I hung up. And about 15 minutes later, he calls me back. Says, hey, Mike, it's Pat. Got your message. You mentioned George and Brad. And he said, how do you know George and Brad? And I said, well, Brad was my fraternity brother in college. And George used to be my boss, and we were still good friends professionally. And he said, well, it just so happens that Brad is my childhood best friend. And George is a business partner of mine. In fact, I rent space from him. And a couple minutes after that, we scheduled our first meeting.
Wow, that is a really brilliant story. Whew, that's the ones I've heard from LinkedIn. Okay, so now you are successful using LinkedIn. Did you have any setbacks, any failures that you're like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work? Do you have those moments?
Sure. There are certainly times, I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of people that don't buy into LinkedIn. And I had found another gentleman in the database and saw that he and I had several mutual contacts. And one of them was a very good friend of mine, or I should say she was a very good friend of mine, named Janine. And Janine and I had known each other for several years and had always been very supportive of one another. And he happened to answer the phone that day. And I said, hi, Brian, my name is Mike, fellow member of the chamber. I'm reaching out to the fellow members to introduce myself. And I said, I took a look at your LinkedIn profile and I noticed that you know the following people. And I mentioned my friend Janine. And he said, you know Janine? I said, yeah, I know Janine very well. She's a good friend. And she got really mad about that. She sent me a pretty angry email saying, how dare you reach out to one of my contacts without talking to me first? And my response was, well, she's not your contact. I said, you're one of 10 mutual contacts that I have with this person. I said, your name seemed to resonate with him, though. And she's like, well, next time, you need to talk to me about this. I said, there's nothing to talk about. And unfortunately, to this day, we are no longer friends. She made she made some pretty commanding statements that day that if that's how I was going to go about doing business, that she didn't want to be friends with me anymore.
Okay. Did you get that contact though?
No, because she said several things about me to him to dissuade him from wanting to do business with me.
Oh, no. Oh, that's not good. Okay. I know my clan here is anxious to hear about how you got through that, and we are going to do that in more details in part 2. But tell us, what do you think is your reason to be successful on LinkedIn?
I think it's my consistency, meaning that I have pretty much a daily cadence to how I go about interacting with people on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that with you in the second half and what I encourage people to do so that they can become top of mind, not only to their network, but to the sphere of influence around their network.
So, what makes you different from other LinkedIn experts out there?
I think the biggest difference is many of them are good people, they're good marketers, but they don't have practical experience. They don't practice what they preach. I'm doing everything, all of my marketing, all of my development for Mike Shelah Consulting. I'm doing that leveraging LinkedIn. The way that I got into podcasts was ultimately through a recommendation on LinkedIn. A friend of mine introduced me to a gentleman on LinkedIn. We had a great conversation. He said, I want you to talk to another friend of mine. I connected with that man on LinkedIn. And he said, I'd love to have you come and speak at one of my events, Mike. And so I drove to Hartford, Connecticut from Baltimore, Maryland to do a presentation back in October. And while I was at that event speaking on LinkedIn, one of the guests in the audience said, hey, I do a podcast and would love to have you come on as a guest sometime. And we did the interview, and he had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun. And he said, by the way, I want to introduce you to this organization that helps people like you get booked on podcasts. I think it would be helpful to you. And they springboarded me into several relationships. And then I got onto one of my last podcasts with them, got me onto a board where people that are looking for interviews could find me. And that's how you found me.
Yes, I did. I was really hunting down for you. And everyone I was looking at, I'm like, that one is the one. Okay. Right, Mike. We know that everyone online wants to have their needs met, their problems solved. Also, my clan wants to know how to learn how to use the LinkedIn. So, what can you say to just someone who's starting out? Where should we start from anyway?
The couple key things, if you walk away with anything, is you want a professional profile picture, and it's really inexpensive. You can get one typically for around $100. And there are a lot of organizations out there that will do free profile picture day. In fact, LinkedIn had a bus going across the United States a few months ago where they were going to major metropolitan cities. And if you registered ahead of time, they give you a free professional profile picture.
Wow.
It was very cool. And so you do a little searching, you can find people that will do it for you for free. Usually, your local business journal will have a semi-annual business expo. You can find them there. I actually use a local photographer here in Westminster, Maryland, where I live. And she's done 3 headshots for me now over the last 6 years. And I recommend to people that they get them done every 3 to 5 years. And the main reason that I've had so many done is I lost a lot of weight this year. I went down 60 pounds, and my picture just didn't look like me anymore. And that's the other key that I want to indicate to people is make sure it's a recent picture that looks like the way you look now.
Oh, I think some of us were in trouble.
Yes.
Others, our pictures are really, really old. Okay, so what is your focus online and the speciality?
My focus online is I talk about leadership, I talk about sales development, and I talk about what they now call social selling, which is the passive attraction of potential clients to come to you. Instead of beating people over the head and spamming them with information about what you do, you cultivate an audience, you develop an audience, you build an audience over time. And after you've had somebody within your circle, say 6 months or more, and they've seen numerous publications and numerous podcasts and numerous presentations that you've done, you've earned the right to speak to them and say, hey, let's talk about your business individually and the things that you want to accomplish. And from that, you get a much better response. There's a meme floating around the internet right now that says it takes an average of 8 touches of a potential client before they'll actually meet with you. And so many salespeople think, oh, well, that means I send them 8 emails or I make 8 phone calls, or those can be touches. But really, if you can engage someone to connect with you on LinkedIn, and then they get the opportunity to see every time you post an update or every time you write a blog or every time you share relevant content, and you do that enough, you earn the right that when you do finally call them to say, hey, tell me what's going on with your business and where's the opportunity that I can help with.
Wow. Okay. So where do we find your consultant, your program?
I am pretty easy to find. Naturally, I'm on LinkedIn. You just have to type in Mike Shelah. I have my own website, which is MikeShelah.com, MikeShelah.com. I also have a Facebook page, Mike Shelah Consulting. I'm on Twitter, @Mike Shelah. I'm on Instagram, @Mike Shelah. Done a pretty thorough job of making myself accessible.
Right. Okay. So we will find you anywhere. Okay, clan. Mike is going to hang out and share more information about his journey with us. But if you can rate where Mike started his travels so far, or you just want to learn more about Mike and his LinkedIn, you can listen to the extended version of his journey at onlinesuccessjourney.com. If you are listening at the Online Success Journey, just click on part 2 of Mike's journey. You'll get even more tips to help you with your LinkedIn and with your journey. And also you can access to all our journey podcasts. So check out Mike's consultant program at MikeShelah.com, and also you can catch him on all the social media platforms. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Mike. Join us in part 2 at onlinesuccessjourney.com.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path, so make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.